The galaxy had seen many wars, many alliances, many betrayals, but none of those moments prepared the assembly for what happened on that cold day on Lysara Prime. Lysara Prime was not a natural world. It was built by the hands of many species. A shining metal sphere, large enough to host entire cities, embassies, and fleets. It floated at the edge of the Milky Way, surrounded by the banners of 200 worlds. Here, peace had been forged for over 100 years. Disputes were settled with words, not weapons. That was the promise of the Orion Assembly. But peace is fragile, and on that day it broke. The Grand Hall was silent. Rows of alien delegates filled the wide chamber. Some had skin like stone. Others had glassy scales. Some breathed air. Some did not breathe at all. But all watched the human ambassador as he stepped forward. He wore the black uniform of the United Earth Council. His face was cold. His voice steady. "I speak on behalf of the United Earth Council and the people of Earth," he began, his words echoing across the chamber. "As of this day, humanity officially withdraws from the Orion Assembly." The words struck like a blade. Murmurs turned into shouts. The delegates demanded answers. The ambassador gave none. He simply ended with, "We will speak no more. We will stand alone. This is the will of Earth." And just like that, the humans left. Their ships departed Lysara Prime without firing a single shot. But to many, this silence was more terrifying than war. Far away, aboard a black stealth ship called Eidolon, Captain Mara Vance stood frozen in front of the transmission. She couldn't believe it. She had served the Assembly for 15 years. She had helped build peace between humans and the other species. She had believed in the Assembly. But now it was over. Mara was 39, sharp-minded, steady, but for the first time in years, she felt fear. Something was wrong. She knew Earth's leadership had grown distant. She had heard the rumors. Still, she had not expected this. Not like this. As she stood there, the ship's AI broke the silence. "Captain Vance, incoming secure message. Encryption level, black ice." Mara frowned. That was the highest level, reserved for military emergencies. She opened it at once. The message was short, only 3 words. "Void protocols activated." Her stomach tightened. That phrase. She had heard whispers about it back when she worked on Earth. No one knew what it really meant. Some said it was a final defense system. Others claimed it was a myth. But Mara had always suspected it was real and dangerous. She felt a chill run through her. Were they planning? She whispered to herself. Her instincts told her this wasn't just about leaving the Assembly. Something bigger was coming. Something the galaxy wasn't ready for. Mara turned to the controls. AI, secure all channels. Prepare stealth jump to human-controlled space. The AI paused. "Captain, you are under Assembly orders to remain at Lysara Prime." "I know," she said quietly. "We're going home." Mara knew this move would make her a traitor in the eyes of the Assembly. But she had to know the truth. She had to stop whatever was about to happen. She took a deep breath, steadying her hands on the controls. The ship's engines hummed to life. Eidolon disappeared into the void, and the galaxy watched in dread. The Eidolon sliced through the dark space between stars. Its engines made no sound. Its hull reflected no light. To sensors, it was invisible. Only a handful of ships in the galaxy had this technology. Mara Vance commanded one of them. Mara stood on the bridge, staring at the display. The ship's navigation showed the path toward the Sol system, toward Earth. It had been 2 days since humanity's withdrawal. The galaxy was still silent, but Mara knew fear was spreading fast. The Assembly wouldn't wait long. Someone had to act before words turned into weapons. She leaned forward, accessing the old communication channels she used during her time in Earth's military. Most were dead. One by one, she tried codes, clearance keys, and hidden links. Nothing worked. It was as if Earth had cut off all contact, even with its own agents. Her frustration grew. Hours passed. She barely moved. She didn't eat. She didn't sleep. She had to find a way in. Finally, she found something. A faint signal. Weak, almost broken, but human. She opened the channel. Mara Vance, a low voice spoke. "I was wondering when you'd break silence." Mara's heart skipped. She recognized the voice. It belonged to Varric. Varric was not human. He was a Krillin, tall, thin, with skin like glass and eyes that shimmered like liquid silver. He had once worked with Mara during peace negotiations. Trusted by few, but known for uncovering secrets no one else could find. Varric, Mara whispered, glancing around, though she was alone. How did you find me? I've been watching, Varric replied. His voice stayed calm, but Mara could feel the tension beneath it. The assembly is in panic. Some demand war. Others hesitate, but the council grows impatient. What are they planning? Mara asked. Varric paused. They have set a deadline. 5 days. If Earth does not respond, they will act. Mara clenched her fists. A preemptive strike. Yes. Mara knew what that meant. The Assembly's fleets were vast, powerful. If they struck first, Earth would burn. But humanity wouldn't go down quietly. Millions, maybe billions, could die on both sides. I have to stop this, Mara said. That's why I contacted you, Varric replied. We share the same goal. But there is something else. Something darker. Mara listened closely. There's a name whispered in the Assembly's dark halls. Varric continued. Solenhart. Mara's breath caught in her throat. Solenhart had once been Earth's top military strategist. He had vanished from public view years ago. Some thought he had retired. Others believed he had died. But Mara knew better. She had seen his work. Calculated. Ruthless. He believed in human survival, at any cost. If Solen is involved, Mara whispered. He is, Varric confirmed. And I fear he is the architect of this withdrawal. Mara felt the pieces coming together. Solen had planned this. But why? What was his true goal? Varric, I need more, she pressed. So do I, Varric replied. Which is why I'm already on board. Mara froze. What? A soft hiss echoed behind her. She turned. The airlock door opened, and there he stood, tall, shimmering calm. Mara almost reached for her weapon, but stopped herself. Varric raised his empty hands. I could have killed you while you searched for me, he said quietly. I'm here to help. Mara lowered her guard, though her heart still raced. Varric stepped forward, his voice dropping low. Solen is preparing something called the Void Protocols. I don't know what it is yet, but the Assembly fears it more than anything. They believe it could destroy entire fleets before they ever reach Earth. Mara swallowed hard. The message she had received, it had said the Void Protocols were active. How much time do we have? Mara asked. For days, Varric replied. After that, the Assembly will strike. Mara knew what she had to do. She had to get closer. She had to enter restricted human space. She had to find Solenhart before it was too late. She turned to the controls. Then we go to the edge of Earth's territory. Varric nodded. I hope you're ready, Captain. Because after this, there is no turning back. Mara didn't look away. I passed that line the moment I turned the ship around. The engines hummed louder as Eidolon turned toward the Sol system. The hunt for Solenhart had begun. The Eidolon sped through the outer edges of human-controlled space. Mara had activated every stealth system the ship had, but even she knew it might not be enough. This region of space, known as the Gray Zone, was heavily guarded. No ship entered without clearance. No ship left without permission. And she had neither. Mara stood by the navigation console. Beside her, Varric watched silently. The Krillin's shimmering eyes reflected the soft glow of the controls. How far are we from Earth's defense perimeter? Mara asked. Varric checked the data. Less than 2 hours. Mara nodded, but tension pulled at her chest. She knew Earth's security well. It was designed to spot even the smallest intrusions. The Eidolon was built to hide, but Solenhart had overseen the design of the security network himself. If anyone could see through the stealth, it was him. Any signs of patrols? She asked. Varric adjusted the sensors. None yet. Mara knew that meant they were already being watched. She had to move fast. She guided the ship toward one of the outer relay stations. These old satellites had once relayed assembly communications. Mara hoped some data still lingered. Data they could use to track Solen's movements. They approached the station, a dark sphere floating alone in the blackness. Its lights were dead, its systems cold. But as Mara linked the Eidolon systems to it, she felt something strange. The station wasn't offline. It was listening. Suddenly, alarms flared on the console. Detection systems triggered, Varric warned. We've been found. Mara's heart pounded. By who? Varric's voice was tight. Human patrol ships. 3 of them. Fast and armed. Mara didn't hesitate. She cut the connection and turned the ship hard to the right. The Eidolon's engines roared to life. On the screen, 3 ships appeared. Black, sharp-edged, and marked with the symbol of Earth's Shadow Fleet. Solon's personal command. They're closing fast, Varric said. Mara's mind raced. She knew these ships. She had trained with pilots who flew them. They were the best. And they knew every weakness in human-made ships, including the Eidolon. We can't outrun them, Varric warned. I know, Mara replied. But we can outsmart them. She pushed the engines to full power, heading straight toward a nearby asteroid field. Varric's eyes widened. That's suicide. Not if you trust me, Mara shot back. The Eidolon dove into the dense field of spinning rocks and debris. The ship shook with every sharp turn. Behind them, the patrol ships followed, weaving through the chaos. Mara focused on the readings. The enemy ships were gaining. She needed to lose them. She spotted a narrow gap between 2 massive asteroids. It was barely wider than the ship itself. Hold on, she warned. Varric grabbed the edge of the console. Mara pushed the ship through the gap. The hull scraped the rocks, but they made it. One of the patrol ships tried to follow. It wasn't fast enough. The asteroid shifted, crushing the enemy ship in a burst of metal and fire. One down, Mara whispered. But the other 2 were still coming. Mara dodged left, then right, pulling the Eidolon through tighter and tighter paths. The ship groaned under the pressure, but it held together. Finally, she saw what she needed, a thick cloud of iron dust hanging in the field. She cut the engines and powered down all systems. The ship drifted silently into the cloud. Don't move, she whispered. The patrol ship slowed, scanning the area. They circled the cloud, but didn't enter. Their sensors couldn't penetrate the thick dust. Mara and Varric waited. Long minutes passed. Finally, the patrol ships turned away and left the field. Mara let out a slow breath. Varric looked at her, a hint of respect in his voice. That was reckless, but it worked. Mara didn't smile. The danger wasn't over. We need to move, she said, before they come back with more. She powered up the ship again, setting a new course. Varric leaned closer. Where now? Mara's voice was cold and steady. To Earth's high-orbit control base. That's where Solon will be. That's where the Void protocols are controlled. Varric's face darkened. Then we'll face him there, he replied. The Eidolon slipped back into the darkness, hunted by its own people, but still moving forward. Mara knew they wouldn't get another second chance. The Eidolon floated in the cold dark near Earth's high-orbit control base. It was massive, a dark ring surrounding the planet like a silent crown. Mara had seen it before, years ago, when it was still a defense station used by the Assembly and Earth together. Back then, it had been full of life, scientists, officers, and diplomats working side by side. Now it was quiet. No signals, no traffic, no broadcasts. But Mara knew better. Silence didn't mean safety. She sat at the controls, scanning the surface of the station. There are energy spikes in the lower sectors, she said, frowning. Varric stood beside her. Defense systems? Mara nodded. And more. She tapped into the ship's old hacking systems. They weren't strong enough to break into the station directly, but they could listen. It took time, but finally she caught something. A hidden signal. A security feed. The screen flickered to life. Mara leaned forward. She saw rows of soldiers in black armor moving crates marked with the words, Void protocols active. Mara felt a chill spread through her chest. Varric watched silently. She switched to another feed. This one showed a massive control chamber. At the center stood a tall man in a long black coat. His face was older than Mara remembered, but there was no mistake. Schoenhardt. He stood with his hands behind his back, staring at a large device pulsing with strange blue light. Mara's breath caught. She didn't know what the device did, but she knew it was the center of it all. Solon turned to a group of officers and began speaking. The audio was weak, but Mara boosted the signal. Assembly fleets gathering at the edge of Sol space, Solon said calmly. They will strike soon. We will strike first. One of the officers stepped forward. But the Void protocols, they aren't fully tested. Solon's expression darkened. We don't have the luxury of waiting, he replied. Humanity must survive. If that means burning the stars, then so be it. Mara sat back, horrified. She had feared something like this, but hearing it confirmed was worse. Varric broke the silence. What exactly are the Void protocols? Mara swallowed hard. I've heard the rumors. A dark energy weapon, AI-powered, galaxy-wide reach. It doesn't just destroy ships, it shuts down systems, controls minds, wipes out entire fleets without firing a single shot. Varric stared at her. Is that even possible? Mara looked back at the screen. It looks like Solon found a way to make it real. They had to stop it, but the base was sealed, guarded by elite soldiers. Mara knew she couldn't take the Eidolon closer without being spotted. She needed another way in. Varric leaned over the console, studying the layout. There's an old maintenance hatch on the lower ring. It connects to the power core. If we can reach it, we can shut down the station systems. Mara nodded. It's risky, but it's our only shot. They prepared quickly. Mara armed herself with a plasma pistol and a small data spike to break into the control systems. Varric carried a silent energy blade, perfect for close combat. Mara locked the Eidolon in a hidden orbit and launched a small stealth pod toward the station. The pod was cramped, barely big enough for the two of them, but it did the job. They drifted toward the maintenance hatch, unseen by the station sensors. The pod attached with a soft hiss. Mara opened the hatch slowly. Inside, the station was dark and cold. They slipped through the narrow tunnels, moving carefully toward the core. As they reached the main power hub, they heard voices. Soldiers patrolled the area, fully armed. Mara turned to Varric. We can't fight them all. Varric nodded. Then we move like shadows. They crept along the walls, using every bit of cover. Mara's heart raced. One wrong move, and they'd be caught. They reached the control panel. Mara slid the data spike into the port and started the override. The screen flickered. Security lockout. Override required. Mara gritted her teeth. The system was locked tight. I need more time, she whispered. Varric kept watch, his blade ready. Mara worked fast, typing commands, breaking firewalls. The seconds stretched into minutes. Suddenly, the panel flashed green. Override complete. Mara pressed the shutdown sequence. The station's lights flickered. The soldiers froze, looking around in confusion. Solon's voice came through the speakers, sharp and angry. Find them. Now. Alarms blared. Mara and Varric ran, racing back toward the pod. The base shook as systems shut down. The Void protocols were offline for now. Mara knew Solon would try to restart them. They had only slowed him down, but it was enough to buy the galaxy a little more time. As they escaped back to the Eidolon, Mara's mind was clear. The real fight was just beginning. Mara Vance gripped the controls of the Eidolon tightly. The station behind them flickered with failing lights. The shutdown had worked, but it had not destroyed the Void protocols. It had only paused them. And now, the entire station was hunting them. The stealth pod reconnected with the Eidolon just in time. Mara and Varric climbed aboard, sealing the hatch. The engines hummed softly as the ship pulled away from the station's surface. But Mara didn't feel relief. She knew Solon wouldn't give up. He never did. She turned to Varric. We bought time, but not much. We need to finish this. We need to face him. Varric nodded, his expression hard. Then let's end it. Mara adjusted the flight path. This time, she didn't try to hide. She steered the Eidolon toward the station's docking bay. Varric raised a brow. You're flying straight in? Mara nodded. Solon already knows we're here. We can't run forever. We finish it now. The Eidolon entered the docking bay slowly. The station's defenses didn't fire. Mara expected that. Solon wanted them alive. The ship landed with a soft thud. Mara and Varric stood at the hatch, weapons ready. The doors opened. A line of soldiers waited, weapons pointed, but they didn't fire. And standing in front of them, calm as ever, was Solon Hart. He stepped forward, hand behind his back. His face showed no fear, no anger. Only cold control. Mara, he greeted, as if they were old friends. Mara's grip on her weapon tightened. Solon, step aside. This ends now. Solon smiled slightly. It's good to see you again. I had hoped you would come. Varric took a step forward, blade in hand. We're here to shut this down. All of it. Solon glanced at him, then back at Mara. You always had a weakness for outsiders, he said softly. I warned you years ago. Mara's jaw clenched. This isn't about me. You're risking the lives of billions. Solon sighed, stepping closer, ignoring the soldiers behind him. You still don't see it, do you? He said quietly. The Assembly doesn't care about peace. They care about control. Humanity was never safe under them. The Void Protocols are not a weapon of conquest. They're the only way to keep us free. Mara shook her head. Free? You're planning to burn half the galaxy. Solon's voice grew sharper. If I don't, they will destroy us. You've seen their fleets gathering. You know what's coming. Mara's heart pounded. They're gathering because you pushed them into fear. You gave them no choice. Solon raised his voice. Because fear keeps them back. Fear protects us. The soldiers around them shifted uncomfortably. Mara could see the doubt on their faces. She took a step forward, lowering her weapon slightly. You don't have to do this, Solon. You still have a choice. Stand down. Let me help you stop this before it's too late. Solon's jaw tightened. There's no turning back. You're either with us or against us. Mara saw it then, the truth in his eyes. Solon had made up his mind long ago. She raised her weapon again. I choose the galaxy. Solon's face darkened. So be it. He raised his hand. The soldiers lifted their rifles, aiming at Mara and Varric. But in that moment, Mara did the one thing Solon didn't expect. She dropped her weapon and stepped toward him, hands open. Solon hesitated just for a second. It was enough. Varric moved like lightning, his blade flashing. He knocked the nearest soldiers aside, cutting through their weapons. Mara lunged forward, grabbing Solon by the arm, pulling him off balance. The room erupted into chaos. Mara and Varric fought their way toward the control chamber. Alarms blared as more soldiers poured in, but they kept moving. Mara knew the station was too big to fight their way through forever. She needed to end this now. She reached the control core, the heart of the Void Protocols. The device hummed with dark energy, ready to be unleashed. Solon followed close behind, wounded but furious. This is your last chance, Mara, he shouted. Step away. Mara stood at the console. Her hands hovered over the control panel. If she shut it down now, there was no telling what damage it might cause. But if she didn't, the galaxy was doomed. She made her choice. Mara slammed her fist into the emergency override. The machine sparked. The hum grew louder. Systems began to collapse. Solon lunged toward her, but Varric tackled him to the ground. Mara pressed the final sequence. The Void Protocol's core glowed bright, then exploded in a burst of white light. The station shook. The power died. The Void Protocols were gone. Mara turned, breathing hard. Solon lay on the floor, defeated but still alive. She didn't wait for him to speak. She grabbed Varric, and together they ran back to the Eidolon. The station was falling apart behind them. Soldiers scrambled in confusion. The Eidolon lifted off, flying out into space. Mara stared out the window as the station drifted, dark and broken. They had done it, but she knew Solon had escaped, and the fight was not yet over. The Eidolon raced away from the station, engines burning at full power. Mara sat at the controls, her body trembling from the fight. Varric stood behind her, silent, watching the dark sky ahead. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The silence hung heavy in the air. Finally, Varric broke it. We stopped the protocols, but Solon escaped. Mara nodded slowly. I know. She tightened her grip on the console. He won't stop. He'll rebuild. He'll try again. Varric leaned forward. Then we can't run. We finish this now, while the assembly still waits. Mara turned to him. You mean go back to Lysara Prime? Varric nodded. We have evidence now. Video feeds. Records of Solon's orders. We send them to the assembly. We make them see the truth. Mara stared at him. And if they don't believe us? Varric didn't flinch. Then we show the entire galaxy. Mara sat back in her chair, thinking. Going back to Lysara Prime was risky. The Assembly still saw her as a traitor. She had broken orders. She had crossed enemy lines. But it was the only way to stop this once and for all. She stood up, walking to the small data core behind the pilot's seat. She slid in the data spike they had used on the station. All the stolen files, all the recordings, all the security feeds, they were still there. Mara activated the ship's deep space transmitter. It would take time to reach the Assembly's high command, but it was their only chance. She turned to Varric, set a course for Lysara Prime. Varric didn't argue. He sat at the navigation console and began the jump calculations. As the ship prepared for the jump, Mara sat alone in the crew quarters. She stared at her hands. They were shaking. She had killed soldiers today, her own people. She had betrayed orders. She had gone against everything she once believed in. But she had also saved billions of lives. She didn't know if that made her a hero or a criminal. Maybe both. The jump engines roared, pulling them back into faster-than-light travel. Lysara Prime was only a few hours away. Mara stood and walked back to the bridge. Varric was waiting. The Assembly's fleet is still holding position, he said. No signs of attack yet. Mara nodded. Good. Let's keep it that way. They entered Assembly space slowly. No stealth. No tricks. They broadcast their identity openly. Almost at once, Assembly patrol ships surrounded them. A voice crackled through the comms. Eidolon, you are ordered to stand down and prepare for boarding. Mara took the comm. This is Captain Mara Vance. I have evidence that will stop this war. Please let me speak to the Council. There was silence on the other end. Mara held her breath. Finally, the voice returned. You have 5 minutes to explain yourself. No more. Mara and Varric share a look. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. They landed on Lysara Prime's surface under heavy guard. Soldiers surrounded the ship, weapons ready. Mara and Varric stepped out, holding nothing but the data core. They were led to the Assembly's Grand Hall. It was just as Mara remembered. Wide, bright, filled with the leaders of 200 worlds. All eyes were on her. The High Speaker, a tall figure wrapped in white robes, stood at the center. Mara Vance. The speaker said coldly, You have broken our trust. You have crossed into restricted space. You stand accused of treason. Why should we listen to anything you say? Mara stepped forward, holding the data core tightly. Because if you don't, you'll start a war that will destroy us all. The speaker narrowed their eyes. Explain. Mara took a deep breath and began to speak. She told them everything. About Soul and Heart. About the Void protocols. About Earth's secret plans. About the shutdown of the station. She ended by placing the data core on the central console. Everything is here. Every order. Every recording. Every threat. Solon wants you to fear us. He wants to push you into striking first, so he can justify unleashing his weapon. But the weapon is gone. We stopped it. You still have a choice. The room was silent for a long time. Delegates whispered among themselves. Some doubted. Some believed. Some demanded proof. Finally, the speaker activated the data core. The recordings played for all to see. Solon's face appeared on the screen. His words filled the hall. We will strike first. Humanity must survive. If that means burning the stars, then so be it. Gasps spread through the chamber. Mara saw it in their faces. The fear, the anger, and then the understanding. The speaker turned back to her. You have risked everything to bring us this. You have betrayed your own people to save the rest. Mara lowered her head. I didn't do this for the Assembly. I did it for peace. The speaker raised a hand. The fleets will stand down. There will be no strike. We will reach out to Earth once more in peace, not war. Mara let out the breath she had been holding for so long. But deep down, she knew it wasn't over. Soul Heart was still out there, and the shadows of war still lingered. She turned to Varric, who gave her a small nod. They had broken the cycle for now. Mara Vance stood alone on the surface platform of Lysara Prime. Above her, the stars stretched endlessly, cold and quiet. She had never felt so small. The Assembly had stood down their fleets. The war had been stopped, at least for now. She looked down at the datapad in her hand. Messages from Assembly leaders and Earth officials flooded the screen. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a hero. Both words weighed on her the same. She had crossed every line, broken every rule, but she had done what she believed was right. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like the eye of a storm. Varric approached quietly from behind. He stood next to her, watching the stars. "They're waiting for you," he said softly. Mara turned. "Who?" "The Assembly Council," Varric replied. "They want you to speak to Earth's envoys. Open a new path together." Mara let out a long breath. "After all this, they still trust me to do that?" Varric tilted his head. Maybe trust is all they have left. Mara wasn't sure she deserved it. She had led a mission that nearly got her killed. She had destroyed part of Earth's own defense systems. She had gone against orders. But she knew this wasn't about her anymore. It was about the future. She followed Varric back into the assembly hall, the same chamber where humanity had once declared their withdrawal. This time, the air felt different. The eyes of the galaxy were still full of doubt, but also hope. At the center of the hall stood a tall figure in dark blue robes. Admiral Renvale, Earth's new envoy. He had arrived hours ago, under assembly guard. He had not spoken to anyone since. Until now. Mara stepped forward. The room grew silent. Admiral Vale nodded to her. "Captain Vance." "Admiral," she replied, keeping her voice steady. They stood facing each other under the watch of hundreds of delegates. Vale spoke first. "You put Earth at risk. You violated direct orders. You crossed into forbidden territory." Mara met his eyes without flinching. "And I stopped a war." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Yes, you did." Mara waited, unsure of what would come next. Admiral Vale took a slow breath. "We have seen the evidence. We have seen what Solonhar planned. The United Earth Council has declared him an enemy of humanity. He is now hunted by our own forces." Mara's heart pounded. "So it's over?" Vale shook his head. "It's never over. But today we take the first step back to peace." The hall murmured quietly. Mara felt the weight of every eye watching her. Vale continued. "The Council wants you to return to Earth, to answer for your actions, to explain in full what happened here." Mara swallowed hard. "And if I refuse?" Vale gave a small smile. "Then I believe you'll keep running, and the galaxy will keep watching." Mara turned to look at Varric, who nodded silently. She turned back to Vale. "I'll go, but on one condition." Vale raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" Mara lifted her chin. "That the Assembly and Earth start talking again. Face to face. No more walls. No more fear." The Admiral studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Agreed." The Speaker of the Assembly stepped forward. "We accept. The doors will remain open for now." Mara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The Assembly guards escorted her and Varric back to the Eidolon. Mara stood on the loading ramp, looking back at the Grand Hall one last time. Varric placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did what no one else dared to do." Mara looked at him. "Doesn't feel like enough." Varric smiled softly. "Peace never feels like enough, but it's the only thing worth fighting for." Mara nodded. She looked at the stars once more. Solonhar was still out there, somewhere. But for the first time in days, the galaxy was quiet. The Eidolon lifted off and disappeared into the dark. And the galaxy watched, not in dread, but in hope.